We'll call the Tremont Planning Board meeting of Tuesday, March 28th to order at 6:01. Roll call, we have Lawson Wilson, Brett Witham, Beth Gott, Ben, not Benjamin Harper, myself, Mark Good, CEO or Deputy CEO Katie Higgins, back from her vacation, and members of the public and the applicant from Tina's Takeout. Okay. Anybody see a reason to adjust the agenda?
Make motion we accept it as presented.
Yeah.
Second.
Motion second to adopt the agendas. All in favor? Yeah. Okay, the minutes, February 12th.
No, didn't they mean March 12th?
What's that?
Wasn't it March 12th?
Yeah, it says on the agenda February 12th, and I just looked at that. Yeah, you're right. Goodness, that's the last time you go on vacation. March 12th, yeah. I did see two things. Under 5, public hearing, it says Chair Good stated that the public hearing on land use amendments was rescheduled. That's past tense. No, because we rescheduled it. It needed to be rescheduled. And under 9 other, about Tom B. Kaushik resigning from Climate to Thrive, and it says Gus McCass will be taking over her role. His name is LaCasse, L-A capital C, I believe, A-S-S-E. That's all I saw. And if nobody else has any other things, I'll take a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
I so move.
I'll second.
Motion second on the table to approve the minutes for March 12th as amended. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Sorry,
Oh,
discussion, I just want to clarify, Gus's last name has 2 words in it, or there's a space.
yeah, there's a space between the cats, yeah.
Great, we're good.
Okay. All in favor? Okay. Thank you. Okay. Public hearing, we have a public hearing on the land use ordinance changes. The proposed ones are going to be heading to town meeting. We'll open the public hearing at 6:04. Is anybody here for the public hearing? Okay. Hold on. Let me briefly go over what is all happening here. There are several things. Some of this is to bring the ordinance in line with state requirements. In one case, LD 2003, it's a new law that allows multi-family dwellings in all zones that allow single-family dwellings, and we're changed that in both the harbor, shoreland, and limited residential shoreland zones. There's also a DEP requirement that requires now pre- and post-construction photos of construction in the shoreland zone. So we've changed that, and we don't really have a choice on those. There are changes to the land use table. It includes formatting. One big thing, correcting an error in there that requires sheds and other residential accessory structures such as garages, etc., to go before the planning board. If this gets approved, of course, these structures would be approved by the CEO as it's always traditionally been done. Other changes include to solar. We've had, or the Code Enforcement Office has received some calls from people saying, oh, gee, do I have to get a permit to put solar panels on the roof? Things like that. And so this shows that rooftop arrays are allowed without a permit for homes and businesses. And a CEO permit is required for the ground-mounted sort of arrays because those are structures. And it also has, and there's definitions for each of these, and industrial solar industrial solar energy systems, which is these large-scale solar arrays, we're saying no for now. They're not allowed. And one reason is because we really don't have standards developed yet for these sort of projects. And it's something that we will be working on and put before voters at some point. There is an exception, and I think we really need to change the way it is in the definition, but we'll get to that later. And the exception is be projects from the town of Tremont or for the town of Tremont, such as out here on the landfill, what they're proposing there. I said new definitions. And also, there's a minor site plan review. We have a site plan review ordinance. We now have amendments that would create a minor site plan review so that projects we discovered in some cases, and the Archie's Lobster, where they did a very small little change, it really tripped the site plan review, and so we had to go through the whole process, which was, I think, pretty much unnecessary. We all agreed, so we have now a minor site plan review ordinance. In that case, the review would be by the code enforcement officer instead of by the planning board. We, the planning board, would continue to do all major projects. I'll take any comments. Could you identify yourself, please?
Yeah, of course. I'm Beth Wolfolk, the manager of renewable energy planning and policy for Clements Drive.
Yes. Could you step a little? It's hard for me to hear you. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You can even sit down.
Yeah. I'll be very quick, I promise.
Well, then don't sit.
I had a chance to review the proposed definitions for residential, commercial, and industrial solar. And I wanted to raise a concern and point out some possibly unintended implications of the proposed definitions. I understand that the Tremont Planning Board wants to protect the town from large-scale solar development, like we're seeing in Bar Harbor. However, the proposed definitions create some unnecessary obstacles for small-scale arrays, which I don't believe is that the town is trying to prevent. The definitions outlined in the ordinance attempt to govern where the solar energy is used, and instead they should focus on size limitations. I think I can think of at least 4 small-scale arrays that currently exist in Tremont that could not have been constructed if these definitions had existed at the time that they were built. If these definitions,
Such as?
well, they're private. They're private property, so I'm not here to talk about the individual landowners, but there's boat shed roofs. Anyway, I'll keep going. Sorry. If these definitions were to be adopted as written, a homeowner with enough roof space to build an array that could power both their home and a family member's home could not do so. A boat shed owner that could not install a rooftop array that could power their business and surrounding neighbors. These projects substantially reduce local energy burden for local Tremont residents and often come with utility upgrades that strengthen the local grid. This planning board can both prevent the development of large-scale arrays while still allowing residents to build rooftop and small ground mount arrays that benefit them and their neighbors. I recommend focusing on limiting the size of the arrays rather than the flow of electrons. And so I'm happy to answer any questions that the planning board may have this evening.
Well, first of all, I'm surprised because it's my understanding that our town manager sent these over to Climate to Thrive and got an okay on it. They didn't see any problems. I don't know whether it was you or it was Johanna.
Yeah. There's, as you know, Thumbie is leaving Climate to Thrive right now. And so I think...
Who's leaving?
Thumbie?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and so, I think, I don't know where the miscommunication came from, but
It must have been from Johanna then, if it wasn't from you.
Are there specific aspects of the definitions that you think are problematic from the perspective of, like, I think you said current projects, I don't care who they are, one, and then two, are there problematic language that you think prohibit, I think you talked about a business that has enough roof space that they could power other people? Like, what's the language, specifically that is a cause?
Great question. The main one, and it's a small tweak, is just intended to primarily reduce on-site consumption of utility power and for fossil fuels. So if you were to eliminate that language from the definitions, I think it would be completely fine.
So these have been bounced back to us.
For which definition?
Asked us to remove site, on-site if the planning board so chooses.
Sorry, say it again.
So that
Maybe
specific
that's no
thing-
information.
So no, Mark told you this last time, when he talked about it under other, the select board has bounced these definitions back to the planning board again, because they were specifically talking about how they didn't like on-site, but they said it's your decision in the end.
No, that's not entirely accurate. They didn't bounce anything back to us, first of all. There was one member of the select board that said that. There was no vote taken on it.
That's just what Jesse told me. I'm just telling you what I was
I was at the meeting.
Okay.
So the changes that we presented, they were fine with.
That person is not here tonight. Expected that person to be
The
here
board
tonight, but I
as
understand
a
that person
board.
has COVID, so they couldn't show up, so.
So the board hasn't, have they made?
No,
a
no,
decision?
they just, what they voted was to send the changes on, put them on the warrant.
All right.
Okay,
So
not
they-
specifically.
Right.
We have a public hearing process, and then they have a public hearing process. So at some point, things might be changed,
Yeah,
but there was no specific direction.
from them to.
There were
send back to
comments
us.
made, yes, but there was no votes made, and it wasn't, in my mind, any clear direction. Is it Beth?
Yeah.
If you look at commercial solar energy system and, what's the other one?
Industrial or
No, not the industrial, the
residential.
residential, yes, thank you. It says primarily or solely for on-site commercial use. Primarily, to me, doesn't necessarily preclude saying I have excess energy and I'm going to, or excess electricity, and I'm going to deal with the power company and have that used to offset somebody else's bill, which I understand is already being done.
I think it's vague, and I think a lot of people's interpretation would be that at least 51%, I would guess more than half, would need to be used on site.
I think this is what I would, let me describe to you a scenario and see how this will play out. Let's say someone has a shack,
Right.
okay? And they build a structure on top of that shack that is massive. And they put a bunch of panels on there, and they're not really using, they have nothing in the shack. And their only purpose is to really generate, it's the size requirement's fine, it's a small, or whatever, however the hell we do it, pardon my French. But it's really not designed to benefit that property. It's designed to power someone else. And I don't know, maybe they get credits. I don't understand all the economics of it, but is that even possible? And like that's kind of what, to me, it's a little bit of it. You're looking at people, the intention of someone. Is that just a crazy hypothetical?
I guess it would be possible. It'd be a really expensive way to do something.
Right.
Like, I guess it's theoretically possible, but I would assume also that shack would have to go through the planning board process too.
Yeah, well.
CEO, it would have to get a
Actually,
permit.
being CEO, yeah, it wouldn't go through the planning board. I made one of the comments I had made was I do think we need to be careful about creating, rules that are inconsistent with how the power companies in the market kind of lets it happen. I'm not saying we can't do it, but we need to be careful and thoughtful about that. Now, I will say that was not at least it wasn't my, I understood that people do that. Because we talked about, like, if someone has one, they can do credits with their grandma or something like that across town. And I was okay with that. I think what we were trying to ensure is that there wasn't like a backdoor way to have one of the two categories that are not, the massive production ones, and sort of backdoor a production, a commercial through one of these kind of other. And so we said, well, let's make sure it's primarily they're primarily using it for their property. Yes, if there's excess, yes, they can, they can do the, whatever, I forget what it's called, like the credit sharing or whatever.
Yeah, I think what he's trying to say is.
Not very well,
Let me say something not very well. Creating little mini power companies, okay, where, if you're producing excess power and you're giving it to your grandma, that's one thing. But if you're creating excess power and you're selling it to your neighbor, that's a whole different ballpark. And we don't want to get involved in that.
I don't know how, let's say you were going to, let's get just to use numbers, right? I mean, you could say if someone was generating, I don't know, what's a normal, kilowatt thing for, someone's house or something?
Jeez.
10 kilowatts, let's say, they're generating 10 kilowatts, they're using one and, selling, or putting 9 out there, that's a little,
Sorry, can you finish that sentence though? Because I'm not quite sure. Is that something that you?
Well, that would not
we
be
should
primarily,
regulate?
right?
Correct. And I guess I'm.
And I'm trying to think, is that would that normally happen? Is that like a?
I don't know if it's normally, but I guess I would argue that it's not. It's sort of beyond the purview of this board to try to regulate the difference between a house that has 10 kilowatts and is using it all,
yeah,
and their neighbor who has 10 kilowatts and is only using one of those watts.
Yeah, well,
and that seems
the
like
language that's there, we didn't just make that up. I think that came from other regulatory regimes in other towns. So I'm trying to take the primarily and boil it down to something concrete that I can think about. Go ahead, sorry.
Another reason I would really, really encourage you to primarily focus on size when you're thinking about these arrays is the technology is changing, and it's changing rapidly. So something that fits on your roof right now could power your home and maybe somebody else's right now, but 20 years down the line, 15 years down the line,
You could do a whole neighborhood or something.
You could do a ton, or you could do a lot more. The panels are becoming more efficient and the technology's becoming more powerful. So I think really focusing on what kind of size development do you want to see here rather than what happens with that power.
Yeah.
I thought we were okay with rooftops.
We are. Yeah.
Commercial
I mean,
and
what we're
residential.
getting at, the definitions have changed, and they're sort of, at least from what I can see, they're morphing towards this. What is it? Small, large. It's instead of and away from a little bit kind of what we're doing, but there's still some out there to do it that way. But they're different. They go purely by size, and we talked about this. I don't know. I'm frankly ambivalent, but I'm happy to continue the discussion and what people think's right.
What's your suggestion on how to accomplish what we want to accomplish without, maybe I'm not asking this right. We want to prevent people from selling power, okay? You can use your own power. You can
Is that
give it-
true? That's not true over here.
What do you mean?
I don't think we want to prevent people from selling power. I think we want to
Well,
prevent
no, okay,
large
wait,
scale-
no, but then you become an industrial.
But I think we have to think about, what are we really concerned about? Are we
Are
concerned
we concerned
about?
about the square footage of solar panels in
Yeah.
Tremont? That's what I'm concerned about. And maybe I'm hearing that you're actually concerned about people selling power off of their rooftop. And if that's the case, then we should talk about this,
I mean,
addressing that.
okay, for one thing, does the PUC even allow that?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I can set up my own power company.
Yes.
Do I have to go through a
I would
process?
call that,
Apparently I do.
To sell it to bigger, you, I mean, I don't wanna go down this huge rabbit hole, but it is highly regulated by the PUC.
But there are community solar projects here on this island where multiple people are exchanging money for power.
That's fine, like Ampion or Nexamp.
Sure, or Ocean House, or the Bar Harbor Community Solar Farm. Like, yeah, there are ways to do it, and I could be selling it to my grandmother.
Like,
Down the
you could
street.
put an array on a boat shed roof that could power 10 homes, and you would be purchasing the power from that array.
I have no issue with that, but I think that,
Because that's
that
what-
it falls under industrial and it should come under stricter standards than just putting some panels on my rooftop or in my yard.
And is that true if it's 2,000 square feet?
I think so, yeah, because yeah.
Okay. I think that's what the ordinance, and right now, until we have those standards, that ordinance would not allow that 2,000 square foot, which is the size of this room, would not allow an array of that size if you're selling it or giving it or bartering it down the street.
Elaine?
I'm kind of curious about this because I really do feel that it's the size that counts more than what you're gonna do with it. Because in everything else, you're talking about size and distance and all that kind of stuff. You don't tell people or regulate people what they're gonna do necessarily with that size or what, you know, like on a, if you're talking about a campground, you don't tell people that you can't charge them this amount of money, you can only charge them this amount of money. Or with a rental property, you don't say, okay, you can have 2 rentals, but you can't charge this because it's too high. You can only charge this. I think that's what you're talking about, is telling somebody that, okay, you have a solar panel on top of your roof and you're providing more than what you can use, and I choose to sell it to Lawson, for instance. I choose to sell it, he's not related to me, I choose to sell it to him for whatever reason. You're telling me I can't do that because I'm selling it to him and I might be making a profit instead of, or trying to break even with my investment. I think that if my solar panels don't exceed the size of whatever the size is that's regulated in my house, then I should be able to do with that power what I want. If I want to sell it to Lawson, I should be able to sell it to Lawson. I think you should be more concerned about the size and not who that person might be selling it to, because, you know, there's a lot of people in this town, you know, that they might have a big old house, they might have this, and there's not a lot of ways that people can make money here, you know. And I'm not saying that a lot of people are gonna go down this road of selling this stuff, because there are a lot of regulations and there's a lot of crap you have to deal with to do that. But I'm saying that you shouldn't possibly restrict them from doing that.
Lane, let me interrupt you again. We're not preventing anybody from doing that. We're just saying that you fall into a different category. That category is an industrial solar energy system rather than
Which is not
residential.
allowed.
Huh?
Which is not allowed in any zone.
Until we develop standards.
Okay. But I just want to, like, but these changes
And if voters approve those
Right,
standards,
but if people approve this change as written, it does prevent
for now.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just
And
want.
that's where I'm saying, because industrial to me seems like I'm gonna be powering Rumford Mill. That's what industrial means to me. Or I'm gonna be powering Jackson Lab. That's what industrial means to me, or the hospital. It's not the 2 or 3 people that I would be selling to if I chose to sell. That's where I have the problem with that industrial word.
Seems like there'd be a size classification between residential and commercial, where you could sell maybe a little bit more in industrial, which would be much larger.
Yeah,
You're
that's
saying
it.
like a 3-tier.
That's the intended purpose, you're building it to sell the power. If you build something to use it, and your uses change, and technology changes, and you're not using as much electricity in your business, then you could sell the excess, same with a home residential. I mean, I see no problem in selling the excess.
You know, because somebody might be here in town, right, and not really, like, I'd love it if my son put solar on his house and provided me with electricity, because my roof is not suitable to have solar. Love it for that, you know, but there may be people that are in town that have no relatives or something, and if my son's not gonna do it for me, and I'm not saying he's being a bad boy here, but I'd like to be able to get it from somebody else. you
Well,
know?
Elaine, right now, I can do that. I can go with Nexamp or what are they called? Any of those
Yeah.
places right now and subscribe, and I'm getting solar power.
That's like a huge
But-
system, right?
What,
And
what would?
Yeah, but
what would-
it accomplishes what you
I'm
want to
just-
do.
I'm just having a problem with your word industrial. I'm just
Well,
having a
industrial
problem with
is,
that.
is just, that's like the big ones, right? Is that the big one? Yeah, that's
Well,
like,
no, it's not about size. There's nothing about size in industrial.
well, it's offsite, right?
It's offsite.
Well, it's offsite. The size are in the other one, it's 5,000 square feet, and then I think residential is what, like,
So even if you had a
25,
small, like a
100.
single panel array, even if Elaine owned 2 acres up in Seal Cove,
yeah.
she couldn't put an array.
So that's what I'm
herself.
getting at. What, I think what what you're proposing though, and maybe we're okay with this, but this is what it would permit. It would permit, you know, people in tracts of land just putting onesie-twosies here around, right?
So
Yes.
you want something that the utility refers to as like behind the meter, or something that's tied into,
My point is, if it's not primarily for, you know, use on site, you could have people who own tracts of land that just start putting up smaller solar arrays that are not the large ones and you start peppering the land with, yeah, I don't know. That's the question.
Instead of calling it industrial, how about calling it commercial? I mean, you're in it to.
Well, we have one we call
It
commercial
is.
that
So
allows,
just so
you know, on
folks know,
like
there's-
Hanson's to do it or that sort of thing,
Yeah.
yeah.
So they're not doing it to make money, they're doing it to
The
offset.
thing is,
So we have
two-
basically 3 categories just to level set, right? We have residential, 2,500,
Yeah, thanks.
and it's, you know, use on site. We have commercial, which is kind of more for business. I think it's 5,000 square feet on site. Like if, you know, Hanson's wants to put some arrays on their roof or something like that. And then you've got the arrays like, you know, power generators gotta come in and put arrays on. And I think that
That's not what industrial is. Industrial is defined as.
offsite, yeah, it's.
Right, so it's
and-
not
And I don't
like-
think there's any.
It's just
there's no-
anybody who's wanting to build
Yeah.
panels that aren't being used on it, or
Yeah,
power's not
so
being
what we'll
used.
have to do is if we make this change, right, you would have to, I mean, basically the use is a proxy for the size or for the intent. If we're gonna take that out, you now have to define, you have to put a size to that.
Yes.
And if you do make that change, and you could have smaller onesie-twosies, they're not, like, people just put up an array on a piece of property they own and feed the grid. Yeah, and that's the question, do we want that, are we okay?
Well, I have
Do we
no
think
problem with
that's
that,
gonna
but there, we don't, I don't think our ordinance has the standards. I mean, first of all, I'm concerned about safety. You know, we should require fencing.
If you take away the primarily or solely for on-site, okay, if you take that out, which is what they're suggesting, then you can have, then a residential doesn't have to be on a residence.
Right.
It can just be on a piece of property. That's the issue. And a commercial doesn't, then it goes down to the size, like 2,500, 5,000, and, yeah. You could have a bunch of smaller ones that are not tied to residential use or business use.
But shouldn't those still be required? There's nothing in our ordinance about decommissioning these things. I mean, look, we have a
Yeah, I know what I
telecommunication,
mean.
we have a tower ordinance, telecommunications tower ordinance that has some standards specifically for cell phone towers and things like that.
Yeah.
I think any of those projects, we need to have that sort of thing. fencing. These are
So you
electric
think that-
generation
so you think
facilities.
that the
Why do we want
primarily
little
or
kids being able to
solely-
wander into these places?
Right, and so you think that by tying it to the use, we address that? Tying it to the use on site? That addresses that issue?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Because where are those, how does it address it?
Well, but
Mark, are your concerns addressed for the residential and commercial or
the
definitions right now?
decommissioning
No,
piece-
I'm talking about what I call industrial solar, okay? Whether that array is 50 acres or a quarter acre. I'm just throwing those numbers out there,
Yep. Or
okay?
even small ones,
You know,
small has
I don't think that the standards that we have, and even our site plan review ordinance, are significant or they don't apply to this. I mean, they should be.
And so therefore, and look, that this is where, I get it, so therefore, the primarily or solely for on-site is a proxy for clamping that down or making sure we don't, we address, that issue's addressed, at least for now, by limiting the ability for people to put onesie-twosies for generation.
It would prevent.
That's fine, I mean, look, if that's the rationale, then fine, I'm just trying to understand where we work, it's been so long since we've talked about it. But, yeah. You go ahead, yeah, no. Is this helpful at all, at least in the discussion? I don't know.
I mean, you're bored, so I'm just here to try and help.
Yeah.
I also want to point out, so I realize that you're planning on developing a larger ordinance to address things like fencing and the other aspects of this. Solar developers are not exactly flocking to Tremont. Right, and we don't have to get deep into a discussion of the grid, but Bar Harbor has very attractive electrical infrastructure for developers. Tremont does not.
We understand that. We met with you, I think.
Yeah, and so even if a resident wanted to put up a 25 kilowatt array or something that was half the size of this room and trying to plug that into the grid, I can say with that is not attached to a house, that's not attached to a business, I can say with like 99.9% certainty that's not getting approved by the utility just because of the infrastructure here. So that said, the person is starting to do work in this area and they are starting to upgrade the lines, but that is not going to change over the next 12 months. So there's time, and so I think I would say focus on just regulating the size and what you want these to look like, rather than trying to mitigate a problem with a definition that doesn't address the issues that you're worried about anyway.
I go either way. I'd be inclined to maybe just leave it, and then we can, if there's enough noise about it, when we go to do the, are we gonna do anything with the bigger one, or is that the plan, or we don't know?
Right now, you mean?
No, the industrial at some point in the future?
At some point. in the
Yeah,
future.
that's what we've talked
We
about.
could always come back and.
Yeah,
and
in
finish
fact,
it
I
up.
thought that's what Climate to Thrive, wait, are you Gus?
Yeah.
Okay, I guess you're the one who's supposed to help us develop some of those standards.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll be starting the position Monday. And I'll be happy to meet with you.
You what?
Not gonna talk to me. Good answer.
We don't want to violate the wage and hour laws. We cannot put them on the clock.
We need a motion to just present the changes that we've already talked about and present it to the.
I will say, I know what you're saying.
If we're going to make any changes to what we
I
have,
think
we have
go
presented
with
here,
that.
or have here,
But I
we
think
need a
we do it
motion to
when
do
we-
that.
I think we,
And-
Gus
and
tells us what's
they
going
will
on.
vote.
And when we do
don't need a
the,
motion if we're gonna leave it
yeah,
the
we
way
can go
it is.
back and.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
But I'm going to
I will
suggest a
move- I will
change in a
move to
minute, though.
Present the, do you look for a motion?
I'm going to submit it.
Okay.
Well, I'm worried about the town of Tremont, I'm worried, there was a lot of concern about the project out here, the second phase of the project out here on the landfill, okay? And the way it is now, there's a clause that says excluding the town of Tremont. If you look at, I don't like where that is, because I think that is an industrial solar array, first of all, okay? I think that maybe the best thing to do is in the table of land uses, have a footnote to it, like we have for other things, and that footnote should say something like industrial solar energy systems for the town of Tremont that conform to existing land use standards are allowed with planning board approval, something like that.
But isn't this an existing project, so that it isn't?
It's not,
So it has
There is an existing one, and then there's another one that is,
projected?
what's out here now never got any planning board approval or any CEO
So it
approval.
isn't the project isn't grandfathered?
the
or
current
anything?
one is.
The current one
but the next
probably
would
is,
not
yeah.
be
Did not be.
necessarily.
The new
That's-
one, okay. There was a concern, and this was expressed at the, with the meeting with the selectmen, that they weren't sure whether that, and I have to agree with them there, that, or the person that said this, that this may not be sufficient to achieve what we want.
Is there another precedent for exempting municipal projects from?
There is, and it involves the library. I finally found it. And there was something, I can't remember, this was years ago, before I was ever on the board, or any of us were on the board. The library wanted to do something, and I don't know whether it was a setback or whatever, but they made an exemption for the library so they could do their little project.
I feel like there was another project here, they were gonna pave the parking lot, and thought that they needed to get site plan review, and then, this was when Jesse was CEO, determined that because it's town property, we don't need to get town.
The
planning board.
the
But
planning,
maybe
no,
there
the
was some
planning
other-
board reviewed that project.
I don't think, we like started to, and then we determined that it didn't need something, but maybe or maybe we did, and I get confused. All right, so then let's go back to your idea about a footnote to the land use table. That,
I mean, Beth's right. We know the grid isn't ready for these big projects, okay? We do know that, okay? But still, that doesn't mean we can't get ready for them. And look what's happening in Trenton right now.
I totally agree, and again, the infrastructure in Trenton is very different than Tremont. At the risk of being presumptive, I brought potential edits for the planning board to review. Suggested edits. And there's enough to,
Did you pass
oh
it
yeah,
now?
take one and pass it.
Oh, sorry.
I don't want to say anything,
Yeah,
Brad,
we're
but
hoarding the information.
and again, I think I better understand now what your intention was behind the industrial solar energy system definition. And that might be a longer discussion, or a different discussion. But that green is just to keep the definitions kind of in line in that tiered system, I think that we're talking about.
Why are you recommending for industrial anything greater than 5,000 square feet?
Just because the commercial definition ended at 5,000 square feet. So to me, I
Okay.
read it as kind of a tiered system with that approach.
Yeah,
And as I just said, I think I understand better what you were trying to get at.
I'm not real happy with the terms we actually use here, but that's what we ended up with, okay? But the commercial ones we were, in talking about this, we were talking first about residential, okay? And then I said, wait a minute. My neighbor in the boatyard has them on the roof. He's a business, he's not residential, okay? We need to do something that allows those as well. That's how we develop the commercial solar energy system. It's like for businesses like over there at Hanson's, if Hanson's wanted to do that, or whoever. It wasn't designed to provide power to other people and sell it, such as like Ampion or Nexamp, those things,
Yeah.
which is the industrial.
Yes, I agree that Nexamp and Ampion would be categorized as industrial.
Yeah.
They're also, those are 2 megawatt arrays that take up 10 acres. Solar developers, this is just what I know about the economics behind these projects, they want to build large. So by limiting it to 5,000 square feet, it is very, very unlikely that a large-scale developer like that would be coming in.
The other thing that you may not understand is these large-scale systems like this type of activity is only allowed in one of our zones, the residential business zone, currently. Where have we had the most problems over the years, huh? In what zone? The residential business zone,
But
because
it's also the largest square footage, so that's not
So, you know,
necessarily.
so here, this is Hancock's. I know we got it somewhere. I mean, Hancock.
they have a 3-tier thing, don't they?
Yeah, and they use the the on-site versus off-site. What is it? Private residential solar energy, commercial solar energy, industrial solar energy. Huh? They look a lot like Hancock. Imagine that.
They borrowed that as well from another town.
Pardon? What's that?
Hancock borrowed that.
Did they get it from someone else too? Yeah. I was kind of curious, like where we got that language. I started Googling and it popped up. This is going to be the 200 acres in service area.
It seems like they're two related but sort of distinct things. One of which is size, like how much square footage is covered by solar panels. The other issue is it the only thing that's on that piece of property? And I hear from Mark articulated well that like with the absence of standards raises some concerns about standalone arrays that are on a piece of property with nothing else in the middle of the woods or in the middle of a neighborhood, and that are somewhat alleviated by linking those projects to properties that already have either a business or a house on them. And so I guess whether we do it now or 2 months from now when Gus is on board and helping us, maybe shifting from commercial, industrial, and residential to small, medium, and large, and overlaying that with like primary use versus accessory use, and which is language we already have about like, is it the only thing that's on that piece of property? And if so, like, then it should follow these standards. And if it's not the only thing on the property, then it should follow a different set of standards.
That's what our Harvard does. I mean, and you can have completely different sizes than what our Harvard does.
So instead of residential, commercial, industrial, you have small, medium, and large.
Yeah.
That's what she's been saying all along.
Right, and that we should decide as a board where we would think that small is appropriate, where medium is appropriate,
And primary versus accessory.
and primary versus, so that if we decide that anywhere it's okay for there to be solar without a house or without a business. We have some standards that.
Yeah, right now, the only place you could do that would be, you know, the industrial. Because in any other case, it's
Correct.
gotta be connected to.
You're right, exactly.
A use
So I think that that piece is a little bit addressed here. The size piece is not very well addressed in our current definitions, but the
Well,
accessory primary is not.
residential is up to 2,500 square feet, commercial is up to 5,000 square feet. That feels like it's pretty black and white to me.
Right, but you could, right now, you couldn't do a small 2,000 square foot array on a piece of property if it was the only thing there.
Right, that has nothing to do with size. It has to do with the other, you know, whether it's connected to primary, you know, residential or commercial. It's connected to a house or a build, or you know, commercial building. You know, it's kind of coming back to me. I don't know. I wouldn't change it right now. It's just me.
I would leave it the same.
There's
You
one
would or
other thing
wouldn't?
that enters into this.
You
that-
would or wouldn't?
Would.
You would?
Would.
You'd make these changes?
No.
No.
No, I would not right now.
And Gus, you may want to listen to this.
Oh, I'm listening.
Okay.
But I do appreciate, I do think we need to revisit it. I know what you're saying. And I do think we need to be careful about about creating rules that don't allow the market to work the way, you know, it's allowed to work.
Here's another concern of mine. Okay, we also have the comp plan, our comprehensive plan, that's going to be voted on at the town meeting. We worked a long time on this. Part of the things that are happening the comp plan is suggesting, we would have to implement here on the planning board, okay? And one of the high priorities is affordable housing, or housing in general, okay? Should take precedence? If you look at the comp plan, there's not a lot about solar arrays. There's nothing really about solar, I don't think, in general. There might be some general language about climate change, things like
Sustainability. It's
that,
on
okay, but
sustainability.
nothing specific. But one of the major goals is to encourage housing development here in this town. So what is a higher and best use of a property? Housing or a solar array? Now, a large solar array, I'm talking industrial here, okay? Look, landfills, abandoned pits, things like that, those are great places. We don't have those. Well, we have a landfill, okay, but that's already taken care of, okay? We don't have abandoned pits, and I don't think.
Not abandoned.
And I think, and I've heard that,
No
don't
souls.
expect them to be abandoned anytime soon, okay? So, I mean, that's something I've struggled with too, is, you know, when, you know, I can still get solar power. I can subscribe to one of these other things. The array is not in my backyard, it's not in Tremont, but I can still do that as a resident here, correct? Yeah. So.
And you don't have to put any money up to do it. Rather than putting an array on, which, you know, the local person, you know, that's not making minimum wage, is just barely getting by, isn't gonna put up a solar array, but he can make use of the electric power that's being generated by Ampion and save on his electric bill.
Right.
If I could add to that, you know, like if you did put up your own solar panels, not that I can, but if you did do that, the cost to you would be far less than even joining one of these large arrays, and eventually your power would be for free. Where that will never be the case when you join one of these other groups. You'll always
So you
be
can
paying.
put one up for free?
I think what Elaine's talking about is the payback, and we've been looking at the economics of solar ownership versus the subscription arrays for a while. And while subscription arrays do offer subscribers a 10 to 15% discount, which is a lot of savings for some people, for most people, ownership in the long term provides far more economic benefits. And one of the reasons that we're trying to promote arrays on things like bookshed roofs or disturbed land on a smaller scale is because it keeps a lot more savings in the communities. So
that's just an explanation of that. But when you're talking about affordable housing, I'm there, right there with you, but I want solar on those housing developments to try to keep the energy costs as low as possible for these low income or medium income, affordable income housing. Just because it just makes sense. It makes
Well,
no sense to-
anybody that can afford to put it on their roof can do it, or in their
If
yard.
they have a
So what-
roof that's properly orientated, but like mine isn't.
Well, you don't have to put it on the roof, you can put them up to, as long as.
On the
lot
ground,
coverage is
ground mounted,
fine,
yeah.
You put them on the ground.
In my 9/10 of an acre, I could do that and leave my car out the road. But I'm just saying that for some people, you know, you can't do that. I want to do that, I can't do that right now. And
But you can get solar power.
I understand that, Mark. I understand I can get it, but I can never get it at the price that I want to get it at, which is eventually, well, I'd have to live a little bit longer than I'm probably going to. But I'd like to have the option to be able to do it. And I don't feel, I think people who are wealthier, who have larger properties, who have the ability to get these solar panels can do it, and there's no sweat. I'm worried about people like me and people like me or lesser income like me who can't necessarily afford larger pieces of property or houses that are built properly or house, you know, that kind of stuff. My only option right now is to go to one of these companies. Granted, it's 15%, 10 or 15% less than what I'd be paying now, and even if we were to use the excess on this landfill, which is what I've been promoting for a long time, and because I'm on the sustainability committee, I'd love to be working with, love the committees of this community to be working together as opposed to against each other. But I would love to have that. My whole intent for the past 6 years has been, let's develop that. And the only thing that's been in our way is the grid, right? The grid is what's stopping us. I wanted it so that we could have in the town of Tremont, middle to low income people be able to afford to get in on a lower income power.
Elaine, this doesn't stop that from happening. We have an exemption for the projects for the town, which is
I
that.
understand that. What I'm having problems with, the only thing I'm having problems with is the language of the industrial. And having, people say, oh, Elaine, you might be producing if I was on my property, you might be producing 6 times more power because the product is so good now that it's producing so much more than what I can use, but you can't sell it to somebody else. Or 5 or 6
It doesn't say that.
Well,
I think
I think it implies that, because that's what I read.
It says primarily, right? So if you're,
I know, but that primarily isn't very good language.
that's great language.
Yes.
It's great. Lawyers use that all the time. Primarily, substantially, for the most part. That's language that people have to actually use judgment. It's perfect.
So
Good.
if she does end up producing 6 times more because her rooftop array can do that, like.
Leave it to
is
the
that
courts,
still
huh?
primary?
Yeah, like, we'll leave it to the
I
courts.
guess that's my question.
So that's the problem. Like my biggest problem, Mark, is that if I came to you and asked you, like, this is how I'm feeling right now, doesn't mean that's what you're feeling, but it's how I'm feeling right now. If I were to come to this board, I feel that primarily would work for me, for maybe 3 or 4 of you, but definitely it wouldn't work for you. And I'm not trying to accuse you of anything. I'm just saying that that's the feeling that your vibes are sending out to me, that you would reject my desire to do this.
Look, I think as a practical matter, right, the primarily is going to be, you're going to come before the board, you're going to say, I live here. I live in this property, and the panels are connected to my house. I don't, what more, how much further are we going to get into it? To me, you just checked those 2 boxes. I don't know what else.
And that's what I'm saying. I'm feeling good with you. Mark is giving me negative vibes.
I can take care of him, don't worry about it.
Hey, Mark, I love you, you know I love you. I'm just
But,
getting.
look, I think what we're
But
really
also
trying to,
the-
what we're really trying to get at is it's almost like, you want, I'm not saying it's owner occupied, but it's right now, we would like it to be connected to, at least right now, either a business or a residential property where it's connected to that property and serving that property. So
And
we don't
that's
get these
fine.
sort of onesie twosies, postage stamp. Yeah.
Okay, I can see that, I can really see it, and I can understand it. Just take the language out that says, I care about where you're selling it. Take that idea out.
But that's what that language does. It ensures that people can't have a non-occupied piece of land with a tiny solar array on it, where that they're selling. I mean, that's actually what we're trying to prohibit. Do you have a problem with that?
I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem with someone. I have to hear that sentence again.
Let's say no one lives there. Let's say you own an acre of land, you don't live there. You just put a solar array in the yard and you sell it to, you power the grid. So you're not using it, you don't live there, you're not using it to supply your house. I think what this does, it does make, that's not, you couldn't do that. Right? You'd have to be living in the house, you'd have to be on the property with your business or in a house in order to qualify in those definitions. We're not going to get into the primary. Like if you have an array and it's hooked to your house, check. Yeah, I mean we're not. It's like we're going to go look at your meter and figure out how much. What it does do is though, it does prohibit people who have a piece of land from sticking an array on it that it's smaller than the other ones, but they don't live there and they power the grid. I think that's to me that's the distinction. Yeah.
Shouldn't that be an accessory use? Doesn't like it?
I think you're getting, that's a discussion like way down the road when Gus gets on the clock and we start talking about the larger ones, like the industrial ones. I do think we can come back. I'm open to revisiting this, when we tackle the industrial piece. That's how I think this is going to continue to evolve. It's going to continue to, and I suspect they'll see more folks falling in line with just, I think it's what, small, medium, large, something like that, and we could readdress it.
I think we need to move on.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we do have to make that one change though. And I don't know
Now?
whether yeah, we have to do it now. And I'm not sure whether my wording was what we really want or not. I just threw something together.
Do you want to share your wording again?
So basically, I'm looking at a footnote on the land use table. So it says no, and in the residential business owner will have a little, whatever number it will be, and we look at it and it'll say industrial solar systems for the town of Tremont, or projects for the town of Tremont, something like that, that conform, and here's the reason I say that, conform to existing land use standards are allowed with planning board approval, because I think they should at least conform to some standards.
I guess right now,
Right now, we have really no standards.
we would treat them as buildings, as structures.
Yeah. As far as for lot coverage.
Lot coverage and
Site,
buffering. and,
probably would be site plan review.
um, And so I think that the footnote,
I mean, I'm not so worried about back here, but let's say the town decides to do something down
Of the
at the
marshal.
harbor, the new fire station, or, I mean,
Yeah.
public safety,
Yeah.
whatever, things like that. I mean,
they buy Beth's backyard.
yeah, I mean, there's no fencing requirement.
That's right.
Really, buffering, and certainly these don't last forever. And especially if a company comes in and folds at some point and just leaves us with a mess
Right, and so
on our hands.
we'll get Gus's help
Yeah,
drafting up more thorough things. I think
that's
in
down the
meantime,
road, yeah.
For now, I think that if we have an exception for, that's the hard thing, is like, it's like Tremont projects, but what does that mean? Does that mean that we're the owner, or we're just the applicant, or, I think
Well, like, could,
It's-
it's
Go ahead.
projects already in the planning, Tremont's, if you put it already in the process of planning it,
Although, how do you define, I mean, the way, like, this project is planned.
Town-approved projects, well, that doesn't make sense either. It's too
How would
big.
the town as the applicant?
It's my understanding, we don't even own this one out here yet.
And
Do
would
we?
we be the applicant, or would Sundog be the applicant, or would the Community Solar Association that's created be the applicant? I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
I thought that was, one of the problems was that the town doesn't actually own the project right off.
But we do own the land. What if we?
We own the land.
What if we focused on the land and said, like, projects on town land are, or industrial solar energy systems are permitted for projects
Town
on
property.
town property, subject to site plan review and approval. That seems to.
Not subject to, because if we change the standards at some point,
Or per the
we would,
ordinances.
then we'd have to change, yeah, that part of the ordinance. I was just trying to avoid going back and having to change it later once standards are developed. I mean, right now, the town should comply with existing standards, which is site plan, I guess, and as we develop standards specifically for these sort of arrays, that they would apply. Anybody have thoughts on it? Ms. CEO?
Could it be something along the lines of excluding projects for or by the municipality of Tremont?
For or by.
So then it could be for the town or the town's people or
But who
done
approves it?
by-
Who approves it?
Well, that's.
It should be the planning board.
Yeah.
And I don't think the for or by is obvious, or like, it's very clear. It's easy for me to imagine a project that is neither for nor by the town, but is on town land. That it could be for residents, for members of a co-op, and by some private entity. What if it's an exception for projects on town-owned land, subject to compliance with existing standards and approved by the planning board?
Isn't that kind of what I said?
Yes, I'm just trying to get the word right. I hope it's what you said. I meant for it to be what you said.
You're making that a motion?
I'm preparing to make a motion.
Okay, I want to actually hear it.
Good. Town-owned land, I'm just trying to, because we're also then striking the clause in the.
Yeah,
industrial
strike the clause, yeah.
solar energy systems.
Lutz, thanks for bearing with us through this, I know.
Thought I see Tina nod off there a couple of times.
What happens when you get up at 3 o'clock in the morning, right?
Okay, and then what are we doing?
He's retired, isn't though?
We're recommending that these go to the select board?
These will go to the select board, and they'll hold their own
For
public hearing on these and other
consideration on
things,
the
and then
warrant.
it goes to voters.
Great, I'm just
Just
trying to.
like anything
frame
else.
the motion, which is like, we're making a motion to recommend these changes to the land use ordinance to the select board for consideration. Is that the right language?
We've already done that.
So what are we doing now?
So
amending.
we're amending it,
Amending,
this, making that one little change. So I think all we need to do is make a motion to that effect.
I'll make a motion to
Correct.
amend the recommended changes to the land use ordinance. That sound right? Yeah. All right, I'm making a motion to amend our recommended changes to the land use ordinance to include the elimination of the clause excluding the town of Tremont from the definition of industrial solar energy systems, and the addition of a footnote for paragraph 34 in the land use table that reads.
I didn't check that. Is that correct?
Paragraph 34 is the industrial solar energy systems
Okay,
line.
okay.
That reads something along the lines of an exception for projects on town-owned land that are subject to existing standards and will be reviewed by the planning board.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second on the table to amend the recommended changes to the land use ordinances to exclude the clause regarding, in industrial solar regarding, hold on, what was that again?
It's
Town
actually-
of Tremont.
Yeah,
It-
we're
I don't have it.
excluding the town of Tremont. We're
Excluding the
omitting-
town of Tremont, okay.
excluding the town of Tremont.
Okay, and add a footnote to which number?
34.
34 of the land use table that says that an exception of, for projects on town land, town property, let's say. And what was the other?
Subject to existing standards and review by the planning board.
Okay. Yep. Any discussion? We have a motion second on the table. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor? All right, thank you. Okay. Anything about the minor site plan review? Nobody's concerned about that? Okay. That being said, I'll call it into the public hearing at, what is it, 7:03. 7:08. What? Oh, yes, you're right, 8. I gotta pull my sleeve up all the way there. 7:08. I have enough trouble with time here. I'm getting a Mickey Mouse watch. Okay, that's it for there. Moving on. Thank you, folks. Thank you, Beth, Gus.
Yeah,
Elaine.
thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Great. And more to come for sure.
Yeah, please do. Look forward to working with you all.
Great. Thanks, Jeff.
Appreciate that. I do.
Leave the fiddle at home.
No, bring it in.
Bring it in. We'll dance for anything.
Okay. Moving right along, we have site plan review for completeness, Tina's Takeout. As you know, we found the application incomplete, and they have corrected some things. Do we have to go through the whole checklist again? I don't think so, just what the change, yeah, what's been changed, yeah, yeah.
On the site plan review checklist I gave you, I did, leave what we said previously, when I had it in there previously in red. I updated what they
Maybe we haven't
included in blue, and I've highlighted each one that we went over. The list we made at the end of
Derek, did you bring copies tonight? Is it possible that we also have copies in our folder?
it. Yeah, so
The copies
before
were-
I left, the copies in my folder was what I had. He then was finally contacted by the MDOT like he was waiting for, and he brought those copies to me.
You did, because I had Jesse make copies today. I thought these were ones Jesse made.
No, these are the ones that he brought.
Oh, okay.
Part of those were what Jesse had printed off, but he didn't print them off in the 11x17.
Derek, I know you're new to this, but please don't email the whole board with things. You know, if you have changes in other projects, this or other projects, just go directly to the code enforcement officer, and she'll take care of sending things out to the board. Thank you. And it'd be good if you could get things in the Wednesday before the meeting. There have been times that we will set deadlines. There is no real deadline here, so I'm not going to complain, but getting something late on a Friday night didn't make me especially happy, let's put it that way.
Sure.
When I picked up my packet that afternoon and none of that stuff was in there.
Sorry about that.
It's okay. I'm not scolding you now. Or maybe I am. Okay. Okay. Evidence of payment of the application, and of course, we know that technical fee, that's a yes, right?
Yes.
We got that. Location of all required building setbacks, yards, and buffers. He's changed it to make sure that, well, whatever, that's a yes. I'll get into details there. Location, names, and present width of existing streets and rights-of-way within or adjacent to the proposed development. We have new attachment 6, shows that. We got that, guys? Or you still looking?
I'm just, yeah.
This should be the revised version from March 21st, 2024. Did you change that on all of them?
They're all,
March 21st?
Yeah.
Yes. And yes, now we have Black Acre Lane and Steel Lane.
Yeah, yeah, those are on there. I think we're all set. Brett, were you okay with that? Or?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Looked like you were looking at something, okay. Location of intersecting roads and driveways within 200 feet of the site? Yes, we got that. Any objection, anybody? Okay. Location, dimension of materials to be used in the construction of proposed driveways, parking, loading areas, and walkways. Any changes in traffic flow onto and or off-site? We okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just to clarify, because I'm not looking at the old drawing, it looks like the fence, the privacy fence moved,
Correct.
and so that's sort of now separating the, or if
we moved it closer to the parking to hopefully alleviate the lighting from cars coming in towards the neighbors and try to keep everything a little bit.
that's not exactly what we're talking, that's great. And it seems clear that there's like gravel area, naturally vegetated area, and dotted shaded area, which is fine. Great, yep, I'm satisfied, thank you.
You should see that the legend has the dotted various graphs.
Got it, thank you, perfect.
Okay.
Yep.
Estimate of the peak hour daily traffic to be generated by the project. I see is an ITE estimate. You submitted that. Okay, folks? Stormwater calculations, erosion sedimentation control measures, and water quality and phosphorus export management. He does have a stormwater Yes, two.
Plan, and then is that?
Remember, this is just completeness.
Yep, I'm just, and we're, in the stormwater map, the thing that addresses stormwater, I just want to make sure that there's not anything else.
That is it.
That's it, great.
We okay?
Yep, we got that.
Okay. And we had approval block, didn't we? We were okay with that
Yeah.
even initially,
Yeah.
okay.
For that highway?
No, I just, it's just me, sorry.
I confused you.
Are we missing anything? I don't think so.
I believe that was all of them.
Uh,
Yes, that was all of them.
Okay, take a motion to find it complete or not.
I so move.
Which way?
Approve it.
And you got me specific with Mark.
I said, I'll take a motion to approve it or not, and you said so moved.
Yes.
So,
I'll make a motion, we approve the plan.
Okay.
As as presented.
As presented. Do it.
But I think it's
Complete.
fine, yeah, we're not
Yeah.
quite there yet.
We're not, yeah, that'll come later.
Oh.
Okay. Okay. Do we have a second? I didn't hear a second.
Sure.
Okay. Motion to second table to find the application for, what is it? Tina's Takeout, complete?
I
What?
do believe they changed the name as well.
Oh, jeez.
I do like the new name.
What's the new name?
It's been like that since the first meeting. but
Right, I
think-
did notice it then, but
It's Captain's Tales Takeout.
Oh, yeah, I guess I didn't.
What does the application say? Have we changed?
Is there a mascot? Is there gonna be a
it was
mascot?
on, it was on,
Okay, yep, the planning board application says Captain Tales.
It does, okay, and we're all set for
Definitely, I would.
Okay, motion and second on the table to find the application for Captain's Tales Takeout complete. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Okay, thank you.
Do you guys schedule a public,
Yeah, that's where I'm going now. We have to schedule a public hearing. It's within, what, 35 days? Is that correct?
It's within 30, but do you want to do the site walk?
And also, there's a site walk, too.
that's actually what I wanted to ask.
Yeah, that was the other thing, too. I think we should go down and just take a quick look. Anybody disagree with that?
I agree.
I mean, it's getting nice and warm out here, right? Just Saturday would have been perfect.
I was one.
Yeah, you missed it. So, what's the ordinance say? When, just, for site walk. Just curious while she's looking, why'd you change the name?
We actually hadn't had a name, we had a whole potpourri of names, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
We didn't just go, my grandkids wanted this name and blah, 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 and I was thinking like lobster tails, like maybe the fish guys would be telling a story, or somebody wanted to know about fishing, or while they're eating or whatever, you know what I mean? So lobster tails plus lobster tails spin-off.
I get it, okay.
And I think just an initial communication about the project, I was calling Tina's Takeout, so it's probably my fault that it thought it was called Tina's Takeout.
Yeah, I think
It sounded nice to me, and I.
Great.
We'll let them deal with you on that.
It is within 30 days.
Within 30 days, okay. What's the pleasure of the board?
What's our next meet, how about before our next meeting? Oh, does that not work for, Ben, you don't wanna meet at 5, you wanna, 6 o'clock's the earliest? That works well for you?
Well, 5:30 is all right, and if you wanted to do it before the meeting,
yeah, because it's just right
it's
here.
just
We
right
did
here.
5:30, whenever our next.
On the
meeting is.
9th?
On the 9th?
And then just schedule the meeting to follow.
Yep.
We haven't scheduled anything else for that meeting yet, we've already had a public hearing that's announced, it's gonna start at 6.
No, I needed to figure out if you were gonna do the site walk before or after, so I can advertise the public hearing and the site walk.
Yeah. Can we do both on the 9th?
I don't see why not. I have enough time to advertise them and get them out tomorrow. So if you want
I'll-
to.
You have time to get it in the paper?
Yep.
Okay.
Make a motion to
Yeah, sure.
schedule a site visit at 5:30 on, does that work for the applicant? I'm sorry? Does Tuesday the 9th at 5:30 work for the applicant?
It's fine with me.
So
Okay.
the one thing I gotta check is if I'm required to be there, cause I'm supposed to be here to start opening the meeting at 5:30.
You're supposed to be what?
I have to be, before the meeting, I have to be here at 5:30 instead of 6 to open the building and get everything ready.
So doing them back to back
Uh,
is hard for you?
You
I'm
don't have to
supposed
be,
here
you,
if I-
you don't have to be there, but somebody has to take minutes. These are public meetings of the planning board and actually, the site visits, and so the members of the public can show up, legally show up. Although they can't ask questions and things like that, but, so just want you to be prepared for that. Not that I expect a huge crowd to show up, but, you know.
Should we have our nerves?
We'll bring you some back.
I think that would be yes.
Ordinance about that.
You better say yes.
Yeah, well,
Officer rolls it is.
you could serve, but the planning board shouldn't eat them.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And maybe Jesse
I
will,
mean-
Jesse might want to show up, or,
I assume there's a way I can work around it with Jesse, but I just wanted to bring up. the
well,
notice.
I think, I know in the past, we've done that, and,
Okay.
yeah,
I
yeah.
just haven't had it come.
Yeah,
up yet, I apologize.
and
You couldn't set it up.
when Jesse was CEO, like we did Pointy
Yeah,
Head
okay.
and,
I'll just come in, I'll come in at 5, don't worry about it. 5:30 is perfect.
I'll resume my motion to schedule the site plan visit for
okay,
Captain's Takeout, Captain's Tales, on 5:30 on April 9th, to be followed by a public hearing for Captain's Tales here in the Harvey Kelly meeting room after the site.
I second.
motion and second on the table to schedule a site visit for, I keep wanting to say Captain's Tales, I keep wanting to say Tina's Takeout, for 5:30 April 9th, to be followed by a public hearing on Captain's Tales right here in the town office that same night. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Okay. Thank you,
So,
folks.
I don't, it's a public hearing, we don't have to set the time for that, we just follows by it close enough.
What, we set the time, I mean, for the public hearing,
6
oh,
o'clock.
Should say six.
You should set a time, right? Is that what you were gonna?
Yeah, well, two things. You should say, you should set a time. The other thing, I just wanted to do this publicly, that I represent Kathy Grant and Richard Wolf, who live next door. And they have asked me to let the board know that when you do the sidewalk, you are welcome to enter onto their property to look at screening issues and things like that.
okay, okay,
I do
thank
think
you.
we should set a time, because
Yeah.
theoretically, no,
Um,
6:15, I don't know.
Oh, this one was 6:04.
What's
The
that?
one the public hearing you
Yeah,
opened
right.
tonight was 6:04.
Right, but we're gonna
No,
go
no,
over there at
but,
5:30,
okay,
right? So
if we
we've got-
get, in other words, if we set it at 6 o'clock,
We're not done.
and we're not quite done with the site visit,
Set it for 6:30.
so, that's what I was gonna just say, yeah. Set it for 6:30 and, you know,
We're back here.
We all talked about solar for an hour and a half.
Yeah, I mean, that was a blast.
I don't ever want to talk about, no,
In
never.
fact, Nate's gonna be our featured speaker next time.
You guys, the changes that are gonna happen to this town as a result of LD 2003 were worth talking about, and nobody showed up to talk about that stuff. The density stuff is massive. It's-
Oh, you mean where they're gonna mandate more?
AGUs.
Yeah.
Yeah, like even for all the affordable housing and the cluster developments and stuff like that, the density's going up by a fairly substantial amount. It's gonna radically change what towns like Tremont are doing in terms of residential site plans.
That's right, no one wants the suburbs anymore.
So
That's
do we
all I'll
need
say.
to
Well, so that's the
reopen?
problem, so with you guys, that's the problem with the RV zone, right? You might wanna consider some more changes with your comp plan, so that it's not such a broad zone, so that when you do affordable housing, you can put it in some particular districts, just as a thought.
Let's just hope the comp plan gets approved. First
I've been
of all,
having this chat with the towns that I represent, it's very substantial stuff.
Yeah.
Blue Hill still hasn't adopted a new one.
Never mind.
It-
I won't work for them.
yeah.
They don't want zoning.
Okay. Fair enough. So do we need to re-motion with that one?
Yeah, let's amend that motion.
I'll amend the motion.
Make it two separate motions, okay?
I'll
Please.
just restate the first motion, or amend the first motion to be, to schedule the site visit for Captain's Tales, to be 5:30 on April 9th.
Second.
Motion second on the table to schedule site visit for Captain's Tales for 5:30 on April 9th, PM, April 9th. All in favor? Okay, we got that. Now,
I'll make a motion to schedule the public hearing for Captain's Tales to be here in the Harvey Kelly meeting room at 6:30 on April 9th.
And I'll second that.
okay, motion second on the table to schedule public hearing for Captain's Tales, 6:30 PM, right here in the Harvey Kelly meeting room, the town office. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Okay. Thank you, folks. You all said any questions? Ask her. Okay. Now, we get to consider, we hope gets changed.
I'm sorry.
Don't blame that guy.
What's going on
It's
here?
you caused the problem.
A shed. We have a shed to approve.
Shit happens.
But thank you for, but it,
I got that.
yeah. I mean, it was a mistake in the land use table, and unfortunately, it took something like that to point it out, but thank you, sir. Not happy with it right now, but if it, the land use ordinance gets changed, I am.
He said that.
Okay, this is a residential shed in the residential business zone. Mark McGowan and Wendy Gray, 20 Harmony Lane. I looked that up. I didn't know where that was, but it's down off of, yeah, right before the post office. Good night, Dan.
It's supposed to be Castaway Lane.
What's that?
It's supposed to be Castaway Lane, but
Yeah,
it
but
changed.
somebody got their way, so.
Yeah.
So there was no harmony in choosing the name, you're saying?
You got it.
It was dissonance. Okay,
A lot of it.
there are musical jokes there, but
I like it.
I'll shut up, yeah. Okay, so this is what you go through, or used to go through, to prove these things.
Yes, sir.
Now we're stuck with it, okay.
I was gonna say, like sheds are coming to the planning board now?
For the
This is
RV.
what happened, yeah, this is why we have that in the land use ordinance in the table, we've changed it.
That's what I
Because,
do. He
because
knows.
of this Lunt project, went to the Board of Appeals, and they found that the land use table didn't allow for residential, what do I want to say, accessory units, like garages, sheds, things that normally come before, that the CEO has been approved and doesn't come before us. But because of that mistake, we have to review them until it's changed.
Because of the table. The table says an RV.
Weren't
has
you
to
here
go
for
to
the one we
planning
did?
board.
We did
Yeah.
one a
He
couple
wasn't
weeks
here.
ago.
You weren't here for the
Oh,
Lunt garage?
oh, yeah.
So, I
think it
didn't,
would've
and I'm
cured
not gonna
that
feign
problem
anything,
down there.
I did not look at the table because John said, yes, you can permit this. I should have
Okay.
looked.
Okay.
But technically under accessory
This
structures.
It's the way they've been doing it for years, and we weren't aware of it because they never came before
never
us.
came to us.
Yeah, it was just
Yeah.
something the CEO did.
Yeah.
I never even thought about it.
Interesting.
So, yeah, so essentially any doghouse or whatever, we have to approve
Right,
until
but it
this gets
might have
changed.
eliminated that down there.
Yeah,
It would have, yeah.
What? Would have eliminated?
For that prefab, that tent thing that's sticking almost out in the road. The junkyard.
No, I don't think,
Although,
it would have had to come before you.
I mean,
I,
but in
I don't think that
theory-
was ever approved anyway, so.
Right.
Let's
That
not
would've
get
been-
into
that would've
that.
Oh, okay.
Don't blame Katie, please.
Let's not get
The
into that.
standards aren't changing.
No.
No, the
It's just
standards are
who's
not
reviewing.
changing.
Just the
Right.
table.
Basically,
It's just who's reviewing.
if this gets, voters approve of the changes in the land use ordinance that we're recommending,
Yep.
all this stuff will go back to the CEO, and we won't ever have to deal with it again.
Okay. All right.
I pray.
Let's get through this here.
It's pretty easy.
This is very straightforward, it's gonna take 5
Yeah.
minutes, I promise.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh.
I'll start my stopwatch.
How long have you worked with this board?
I take my promise back.
Okay. Residential business zone, land use standards. All uses are permitted, subject to the lot structure performance conversion standards. Okay, this is a permitted use, right? So that's met.
Yep.
You don't need a motion on every one.
No, just for
Okay,
the
okay,
entirety.
that's met. Do you need a reason?
No, I've left that there just in case you do discuss something, so I can have it on file.
Okay. Lot standards, minimum lot area per residential dwelling unit or principal non-residential structure, 40,000 square feet. That's met. They've got the 40,000, according to their application here. Minimum lot area per residential multi-unit dwelling. That's not applicable, right?
Right,
It's
it's a shed.
Yep. 20,000 square feet for each additional unit.
Not applicable.
That's for additional or multi-dwelling unit.
Okay, so that's not applicable. Structured standards, setbacks. Lot lines, minimum of 15 feet for residential principal and accessory structures, 15 feet from edge of right-of-way if lot has road frontage. They do have, I was impressed by their drawings, actually.
You did very well.
Yeah. Better than I can do.
Well, that's met.
So that's met, we're okay there. There's no basketball tonight, there's no need to rush.
No, I know.
Yeah, but all
Hungry.
kinds on.
I am also hungry.
You got a nap, so.
I did.
Minimum of 25 feet for non-residential principal and accessory structures.
That's, I would say non-applicable because it's not non-residential. It's a residential shed.
Not applicable.
I mean, it's up to you, that's just.
40-foot maximum height, we know it's,
Yeah.
It's wicked tall. It's 11 foot 6 inches.
yep. So that's met. Lot coverage, 25% maximum, lot size 40,000, 25% is 10,000 square feet. This is met then?
Yeah, it's only 160 square feet.
Yep.
Do you add up all the other buildings too, or no? Just curious. No?
I have it on there.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's
sure.
2,073 square feet total right now.
Oh, okay.
So you with 160.
And the greenhouse too? That was my, okay. Then that's met.
Where do you have that?
On the second page, where it says up at the top, general information continued,
On the application?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
existing square footage of structures.
Thank you. Yep.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, there's 11.6,
Wait,
okay.
what did that say? 207,000?
2,073 square feet.
Ah, I was looking at.
That, you thought that was a 5? 20,735? Or 207,359 feet?
You're not only making fun of how I write things, you
No,
Yes.
just asking for
Okay. Building size, non-maritime related uses not to exceed 5,000 square feet. Well, it's a non-maritime related use, so this is met, right? It's a weird way to word it.
Yeah, I was.
Conversion standards, structures that existed on May 9th, 1994 in their current form may convert to any use permitted by this section without regard to lot line setbacks, provided the buffering standards are met. That didn't exist, so it's not applicable. Structures built or rebuilt after May 9th may convert to any use permitted in the zone provided the structure complies with all standards for the new use. Is that met?
it's not convertible.
Not applicable.
Okay, not applicable. So that's it. Okay. I'll take a motion to approve the building permit for
Motion to
Mark McGowan, Wendy Gray. Shed.
approve the building permit for Mark McGowan and Wendy Gray.
Second.
Motion and second on the table to approve the building permit for the shed for Mark McGowan and Wendy Gray. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Okay.
Want a summary?
Yes.
ready to go home, Lawson.
Well, not yet. I got a couple things I'm going to bring up here under other. Sorry, folks. I'll try to make it quick. CEO issues, you don't have any? Yeah, I'll bet you have some issues. You just don't want to share them with us.
You don't want to know my issues, we'll be
Okay.
here forever.
Okay. Other. It's come to my attention that maybe a couple people or some people aren't picking up their packets before the meeting. And you know, if there's a problem, it's not fair to the applicant to come in and review them right at the meeting. You should have them beforehand. If there's a problem getting them, let Katie know, and she and I will work something out. We'll bring them to your house, where you work, take them to your mother-in-law, whatever, to make it work, okay?
Thank you.
I'll
I'll
just,
make it, increase my effort, well, yeah, and I'll just
I
coordinate.
didn't want to single anybody out, Lawson.
No, it's on me, it's just I don't,
It wasn't.
Oh, me today.
It's not-
I drive by
was in
by
the child-
7 a.m.
Well, you know, I was in and got my
Hold on.
packet yesterday, and I saw, wait, no,
I mean, I'll
yeah,
tell you,
no, on
sometimes
Friday,
for me anyway,
Friday,
if
I
I'm
think,
working
or
that
I
week,
got
I
it.
can't get here.
Or, no, I was in
So
yesterday, and I
then-
I
so you
picked up my
guys-
packet last week. I saw
You
yours
guys
was still there, and I was
contact
heading
me,
that way, and I
say,
thought,
"Well, I will
do I
find
take it
time
to you or
see
not?
and send
Usually
it.
I run-
And I thought, well, you may not be there. I drove by and I saw your car, and I said, well,
During COVID, we had a
anyway,
policy-
let her know, and one of us.
Well, I did call today, though. That I
I'm
had-
sorry.
No, got the lovely lady on the phone. I just said that I had been out of town and that I would, you know, if they'd bring it down here tonight. I did come early.
I lied, I do suppose I have a CEO issue, and I apologize, I didn't think about it. The way the last planning board meeting went, they could say that there was discrimination. Because there were things required from that application that have never been required before. And they can say that was discrimination against them.
The
One
Catholic
thing,
town
one
people?
thing, one thing,
Okay,
not things, one thing.
what was that?
the setbacks that I asked for.
Setbacks that you asked for. We've never done that before, and I'll take some responsibility that I should have,
Well, did
I
they-
wasn't sure exactly what
did
you
they do
meant,
it?
and there was not a lot of
They did it.
discussion.
They did it,
Yeah.
but I mean, at the same time, you've never asked for it before.
Yeah. Now,
If they wanted to say, well, this has never been asked for, this is discrimination against us, they could have.
Is
I just
that-
wanna bring it up.
I'm just, I mean, I guess it's unclear to me, the relationship between precedent and like what's in the ordinance. And like, if we've been doing it wrong, and I certainly don't think that I like was right, but I was just doing my best to interpret the ordinance last time, which is what I do every time.
I think we know that this project's gonna be contested, so I think
Yeah.
we're being a little extra careful, but I just want to say,
Is it gonna be?
Yeah,
well, I don't know.
there's a good chance of it.
I wouldn't be surprised, it's, you know, but
That's
let's
why
not get
we
into
have
that, I don't
to
want to
draw.
discuss that here, okay?
Uh,
But all they're required to do is show that they have the setbacks there, and it showed like how many feet from the road and the sidelines, and they need to show what zone they're in. We're the planning board. All we have to do is look, and I even mentioned that night, 15 foot from the road and, what was it, 20 feet from the, I can't remember exactly, from the,
25. if it's
25, I
commercial.
think, from the lines. And we look at the standards for the zone. We got a planning board, we have an ordinance here, we just look at that. They've met it, okay? That's all I want, I don't want to get deep with that. The other thing was the performance review fee, and I'm going to point this out now,
Yeah, please.
since that's the point. I was going to bring this up under other. Well, first, let me back up a little bit. We know there's issues with this ordinance, okay, all over the place, and we keep discovering them. There was a time where this planning board, I don't know if Beth was on it, I know Ben wasn't, we asked selectmen to approve having a land use attorney go over everything and look at it. This is under a previous town manager. And look and try to bring it all together, you know, find things that we needed to correct. They said, okay, but we didn't get exactly what we asked for, and we ended up just with campground stuff, okay? I talked to Jesse about this again, because it's frustrating. I mean, tonight I was looking at something, the land use ordinance and the site plan for public hearing, or I think it is, one says 30 days, within 30 days, and the other one says within 35 days. I mean, it doesn't make sense. Okay, there are a lot of things like that. I talked to Jesse. Now's a terrible time to be asking for money to do that, because we get the police protection and all that stuff coming up. So, but he is, don't hold your breath on this. He told, you were there for this, he told me that there's a possibility he might be able to get a grant to help us with that process. So cross your fingers, maybe at some point we'll be able to do that. Or anyway, in the meantime, we're gonna have to keep chipping away at things we find. And we spoke about starting a list for the November ballot to get things corrected, because it's too late for the town meeting, May town meeting. And it's this performance review fee. Now, anybody with a copy of the ordinance there, and I insisted on this the last time. If you look, site plan review, submission requirements, Article 7, page 9, Article 7, A1, fully executed signed copy of the application for site plan review. B, evidence of payment of the application and technical review fees, okay? And I think one reason, I'm not trying to blame anybody, is I think one reason we've overlooked that is the fact that the checklist that we've been given just says application fee.
I'm going to fix that.
Yeah, it just says, now, if you go before that and look at under fees, it says technical review fee, and it says the application, down in the middle here, the application will be considered incomplete until evidence of payment of this fee is submitted to the planning board. The board may reduce, then it goes on, the board may reduce the amount of the technical review fee or eliminate the fee if it determines the scale or nature of the project will require little or no outside review. Okay, my issue is incompleteness. We don't know whether we need that or not. Shouldn't this come, I don't think we should require the technical review fee for completeness, but maybe at a later stage, and I don't know how to work that in. We don't need answers tonight, but I just maybe think about it.
I think you're probably right, because you don't, first, you're being very cynical right now.
Financially.
Oh, it comes up again. You know, we haven't encountered that. I think she changed
Fix
it.
that? Oh, sorry.
I think she did fix that.
What did I do?
There's a place where it says financial and it says cynical, and it keeps saying it, which just means being detailed.
It's a planning board, it's become a planning board joke, and I think at one time we said maybe you could change it because nobody else has been able
I
to.
thought I did. But
I think you did. I think you did because it hasn't come up. Yeah.
Okay, I thought I did, but I don't.
I saw an opportunity to use the word that doesn't happen very
I
often.
I thought you said he was being cynical.
No, very cynical. But yeah,
You know, after the meeting, he'll tell you how he really feels about me.
I mean, I think you're right, because you don't really know.
Yeah.
At the completeness stage, it's your first sort of look at it. You haven't done a site, you haven't done a walk yet, you haven't get a sense of how it's going to develop. You haven't. So I feel like it's any time. I feel like you should say something like we can deem that to be required at any time. You know, I don't know. That's like
We don't have to decide it tonight.
at any time during the process, I guess.
Essentially required when requested, but not in
Yeah.
Yeah.
required if requested by planning board.
Yeah, and any time during the review process.
And the other thing, the way the minor site plan ordinance would read now, or amendment would read now, it would also require that. And some changes, according, Jesse looked it over and he agreed with that, so that's got to be changed at some point. But anyway, it's not beat it to death right now, but I was thinking maybe after the formal after completeness at some point, it's like, I don't know.
I think just say it any time.
And yeah, okay.
It seems to me like it could be like the 11th hour
Honestly, really.
something could come up.
Yeah,
and we
something could
say,
come
you know
up
what, we
during
gotta stop.
substantive review, like, oh, we've got to get an expert opinion.
Yeah,
We gotta need an expert opinion,
yeah,
so-
I think, yeah.
But then probably we need like another 30 days of some, there's probably like.
So it's not a requirement for completeness.
Complete,
It is,
yeah,
it's not.
it
I know,
is,
but I'm
according
saying
to
it
the
should be
ordinance, yeah.
taken out.
Yeah.
That should be changed. It should be-
I mean, let's face it, completeness is just showing that you meet the most minimal requirements.
Yeah, and the piece to me in completeness that demonstrates that that's met is the financial, like, the ability to do the thing or whatever. Isn't there like a financial wherewithal?
Yep.
And so if you've got that, you can pay the technical fee, later on.
Do you have to inspect at the end of a project? Do you go and inspect? Does Tremont have occupational permits after?
Does the state have any permits that they issue for that, as far as
If it's,
occupational?
if it's above certain square footage, I think if it's over 3,000 square feet,
It's
Bill.
commercial.
yeah. But no, we don't require occupancy, certificate of occupancy.
But they'd have to comply with they're a restaurant, so they have to comply with state standards
Yeah.
there, with all that, they have to meet those things. The other thing is, Derek sending that stuff at 4 o'clock on Friday,
I didn't know that happened.
I know you were gone. It irked me. First of all, he shouldn't be sending it to the entire board. He should send it directly to the CEO. But there have been times, as I mentioned to Derek, that we've sent, like in the campground things, you submit by a certain date and we'll say a response due by a certain date. We've done those deadline things. So I'm wondering if we should have a general thing in the ordinance saying that all submissions are due Wednesday, 4 p.m. before the meeting,
Tuesday.
unless
Yeah.
otherwise set by the planning board, something to that effect, just so that it can get in our packets and we have them.
In his defense on this one, he's been trying to contact the MDOT since before the last meeting. He did have all the other information to me before.
Not our problem. If he doesn't have the materials in time, not him, if a person in that situation doesn't have the materials in time, they'll just have to wait until they do get them, right?
Yeah. No,
As far as I'm
for this
I'm
situ-
concerned.
I was just telling you what
Yeah,
happened.
yeah, I'm not throwing blame at Derek, but yeah. Those are the two things. I thought I had another one, but I can't remember what it is, but that's what I wrote down.
Can I go back to, I think it was your first thing?
Yeah,
Well-
performance review?
But, no, I guess the bigger conversation with Jesse about hiring a consultant and maybe preparing a list of changes for November was, did you also talk about the substantive changes as a response to the comprehensive plan? And if that should happen at the same time, or are those two separate tracks?
No, but, yeah, I mean, no, we
Okay,
didn't talk
you didn't
about
talk about
that, is the short answer, okay?
Maybe at a future,
At
or
some,
maybe we wait
at some,
until.
well, first of all, the comprehensive plan has to be adopted
That's
by
right.
the town, okay? And at some point, the planning board will have to start looking at integrating some of those things in there that are the planning board's responsibility,
Yep.
integrating them into the ordinance. But I think even taking that out of the picture, there are things in this ordinance that contradict each other and
There's a lot
themselves.
of-
There's a lot of things
Yes, yeah,
that we need to look at,
for
so.
sure.
So anyway, anybody have any other ideas and be thinking about it, or if you run into things, well, like I mentioned, just in the land, and at some point, I know what it was, some point the land use ordinance and site plan review ordinance, let me put it another way, site plan review ordinance was taken out of the land use ordinance, they used to be together. And I think they need to be joined again, because it's ridiculous that we have to look at two different,
things.
yeah.
I don't think the intent was that you look at two. I was talking to Charlie, I was talking to someone who was on the planning board way back then. I thought- Yeah, I thought site plan was supposed to be for like commercial stuff. And they.
Charlie wasn't on when they did that site plan. No, he wasn't.
around
Charlie
or
was
something,
selectman, I believe,
don't
then.
know. But he explained it to me. There was never intended that they should have
Mike
stayed.
Ryan on the board then, I think?
Who?
Mike Ryan?
It would have been Mike Ryan, I can't think of the lawyer there, tall guy.
Oh, not Jeff. Jeff, yeah.
No,
Charlie
no,
said?
older guy. Spencer
I
Irvin.
was interested.
Spencer Irvin, yeah, and I don't know who else was on there, but anyway. I don't, when they set it up, it was part of the land use ordinance. At some point, a previous town manager wanted it taken out. For what reason, I don't know. I was just new to the board then, and it happened, so. You know, it's ridiculous we have to review these projects like they should be integrated somehow.
And are you keeping a list? Is Katie keeping a list? Who should keep this list of changes to the ordinance?
I vote for Lawson, what do you think? Katie,
Yes, sir.
what do you think? Who's keeping the list? Is that something you want to
Well,
take
I don't
on?
mind keeping the list,
Could-
but I figure more than one set of eyes is helpful. So if somebody else would be willing to also kind of look through and keep a list, because I might miss something that you see.
Well, yeah, I mean, we'll all be,
So if you all keep a list and we all kind of get together on it,
Yep,
if you see, you know, if you don't have the time to go through it, but if you see something, write it down, throw it in your binder, say, hey, I noticed this.
And then
we're no
maybe-
hurry, not, we just basically have this in August, you know, like second weekend of August. or
right,
something, to get selected.
but if I wait until August, I'm gonna forget about
Yeah,
some of these
yeah.
things we just talked about. And
Yeah.
so I guess I would ask, and then this is a request for Katie, which is always a weird thing to do, thank you, CEO. But,
Kate,
like periodically, maybe we put it on our agenda to like discuss this, make a list, and then it's part of the minutes. Maybe that's as simple as it needs to be, is like an agenda item that gets then, actually, we're not asking our CEO to do anything extra. We discuss as part of our minutes, it gets recorded in the minutes, and then come August, we can go back and look at the 3 meetings where we discussed it, and
I don't see an issue.
that makes sense, yeah, make it an agenda
So,
item, but, you know,
Think maybe like every other week
periodically, yeah.
or every other couple of weeks that I put it on under CEO issues and we could discuss it at the end of the meeting.
Yeah. I don't think we have to set a schedule, just,
See how it
it
goes.
depends, I think, what's before us. If we have a big project that we have
Yeah.
to, you know, we don't want to deal with that
Okay.
and be here till 10 o'clock at night or
No,
something, like we
thank
have
you.
with other projects, but, okay. I think that's all I have to say. Thank you, folks, for putting up with all this.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
No, we still have to set the date for the
Oh,
next
next-
meeting.
Oh, I thought we did.
Ben got excited.
We did the public hearing, we didn't set a date for the meeting itself.
Gonna be different.
Yeah, because we're gonna start the meeting at 6.
Third.
We're gonna start the meeting at 6:30 then?
No,
Okay.
it's a
Yeah,
public hearing.
yeah, that's a public hearing. Yeah, so, yeah. Ben, you make a motion to set the date for the next meeting
Is it
and time.
Is it
April 9th.
April 9th, I so move.
At 6:30.
At what time, Ben?
6:30.
I'll second.
Where, Ben?
Hadley Kelly meeting room.
Okay, motion and second on the table to set the date for our next meeting for April 9th, 6:30 PM, right here in the Harvey Kelly Meeting Room.
Beautiful downtown Bass.
And Tremont. Bass Harbor's a village. Okay, any discussion? All in favor? Okay, and a motion to adjourn at what time is it?
7:55.
7:55.
I so move.
Okay, second? Beth?
Second.
Motion second to adjourn. All in favor? Thank you.
There is no people out there waiting for us.
No games tomorrow night, men's games.
Tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night, men's games. And I don't know when the women play.